it's easy to say China owns the United States, right? That's a talking point that I think gets a lot of hot air, but I think you can really footnote that statement because there's so much evidence there. I mean, all the top lobbying firms, all the top legal firms have worked not just with Chinese state-owned companies or subsidiaries of Chinese state-owned companies, but oftentimes they're retained by, various kind of embassies of China themselves. And I think it's so interesting, like, for example, the DOD under Trump put out a list of a bunch of companies that were Chinese military proxies. And of them, it was about 20 companies. I mean, over 5 of them had American lobbyists and American law firms working for them. And there's no better example of how I think America has kind of enabled the rise of the Chinese Communist Party than the fact that our brilliant legal minds are working to help boost China's military, right? Xi Jinping's personal kind of attack forces. So I'm not surprised at all that American law firms are really kind of serving as the legal backbone of propping up the Chinese Communist Party and, of course, going after you guys because you're doing all you can to take down the Chinese Communist Party. And I think that, the editorial line of War Room, if there is one, is really that the CCP works in concert with America, with American leaders on both sides of the aisle, Republicans and Democrats, to sort of bring the authoritarian style, it's really totalitarian style rule that they have over there here to the United States. And, exporting COVID-19 and stuff like that is just kind of one of the many ways that they do that.
Sure. Well, thank you for the response. I'll ask one sort of complicated question. Do you think it is likely that the majority of Americans, or that more Americans than currently understand the nature of the CCP and the threat it poses to the country and why it needs to be taken down as soon as possible, actually catch on to that message? And what beyond sort of new federal state of China supporters attending conferences like America Fest can be done in order to actually achieve that level of understanding across the country?
Well, last summer, there was a Pew poll that came out, and it said that 89% of people viewed China, but more precisely the Chinese Communist Party, as a threat to the United States. So, I mean, to me, numbers like that are very inspiring, right? I don't think you see crosstabs like that on really any other issue. But I also think that outstanding 11% is way too high. But unfortunately, I don't know what exactly the numbers are, but there is unfortunately a class of people in the United States who really have profited immensely from the rise of the Chinese Communist Party. So if you cut those people out, your average everyday Americans really hate the Chinese Communist Party. And most people know my work, and the number one thing they come up to me and say, and they tell me a personal story about how China has really harmed either their workplace in terms of intellectual property theft, taken their jobs. We've shipped all our jobs overseas to China. So I think people really understand. I don't think they need, the higher ups explaining to them what's going on. People understand firsthand what the Chinese Communist Party is doing to them here. And there's no better example of that than COVID-19.